one of the economic dreams about pricing things on the internet is to partition things to small amounts and charge people only for the things they take. And this is called micro pricing. You're getting software, maybe you don't pay for the whole software, you only pay for the feature that you're using, and so on and so forth. And you're not getting a whole album, you're just getting the songs that you want. And the question is micro payment a good idea or a bad idea? Now what we talked about, which is the pain of paying, suggests that this might not be ideal. That in fact, thinking 100 times about whether to pay 1 penny could be much, much worse than paying in one time $1. Right? So these things do not accumulate. So together with Jose Silva, we tried a couple of experiments. And here is what we did. We got people in the lab and we say, look, for the next hour, you can do only one of 3 things. You can read cartoons, and this will cost you some money. You could read news or sports, and this would cost you less. Or you could look at postmodern literature, and this would be for free. This, by the way, the postmodern literature was not really a postmodern literature. There was a website that was generating random sequences that looked like postmodern literature. And the subjective feeling I had reading them is that when you read these things, everything looked like it was making sense. But in fact, when you finished a sentence or a paragraph, you said to yourself, what was this that I just read? And I was into it. It sounded like it was making sense, but I have no idea what it is. And the people who designed this website, this was their idea of what postmodern literature really is. Anyway, so this was, by the way, not really fun to do. So cartoons, extra fun, you pay more. News and sport, you pay less. Postmodern literature, you could do for free. And this was the same for everybody, but we had groups of people that were faced with different payment mechanisms. We gave everybody $10, and some people, we put them in a micro payment condition, which meant that for every piece of thing they were going to pay, not the post-literature, but the postmodern literature, but for the cartoons and for the news, it would prompt them and say, hey, would you like to pay for this? And the cost was very, very cheap. The cost was 1 penny for the cartoons and half a penny for news and sports. Not a lot of money, but they would pay for it. So, hey, are you sure you want to pay for it? So they had to do that. Another group of people did the same thing, and we charged them the same way, the piecemeal, but we charged them at the end. This is kind of like electricity bill. You consume and you consume and you consume and you consume. At the end, you pay for it. Another group, we got them to prepay. We got them to put some money in an electronic wallet, and we say, hey, this is just going to deduct money as you go along. And finally, we had another group that had a subscription. They could pay for the whole thing, right? And they would pay like a package deal that gave them access to everything that they wanted. What did we find? We find that the people who got the subscription paid much, much more than the people who got the micro payment. In fact, the people in the micro payment condition spend most of their time reading postmodern literature, and by the way, having a really miserable time in it. On average, I think they paid basically 4 pennies. That's it in this hour. So they hardly paid anything. Every transaction, half a penny, penny, was just too much for them. They decided that they much rather read the postmodern literature, the fake postmodern literature, and they were quite miserable with the whole thing. The people who got the subscription were much happier. Why? They paid much more, right? They paid much, much more, 10 times more, but they were happy to do it because they were not encountering this decision every time. Should I pay half a cent? Should I pay a penny? And so on. And then what about the people who paid the end versus the people who paid in the beginning? Which one was better? Well, it turns out the people who paid in the beginning spend more money. Why? Because they put it in an account already. They assigned it to an account. This account was assigned to get money for this particular purchase. It was tougher. So if you look at the order of these effects, people in the micro condition, micro payment, paid the least. People in the post condition paid more. The pre-condition, they paid more. And the most was paid by the people in the subscription. Now, the other interesting thing from this experiment is that people basically realized this effect. At the end of the study, we asked people, hey, by the way, in which condition would you have liked to be? And even in the people in the micropayment condition said, you know what, we would have been much better in the subscription condition. Why? We don't like making decisions about 1 penny and 1 penny. We don't like those decisions. We would much prefer to pay for everything and enjoy it to a higher degree. They would have preferred to eliminate the pain of paying from their ways. And I want us to think about two things in this regard. One is, if you look at something like the iTunes stores, everything is kind of the same price. So maybe they have two prices for songs. Why not have lots of prices? Why 99 cents? Why not some of them be 87 and 91 and 101 and so on? And the idea is that if all the songs have the same price or two price points, we basically decide yes or no. But if there's lots of variability in the prices, all of a sudden it makes the decision much more difficult. Is this worth another penny? Should I pay another 3 cents? And we start thinking about small amounts of money, and thinking about these small amounts of money might make the experience less appealing. So having prices that are the same, maybe like the dollar store, actually make things much more easy for us to process. We don't look at small prices, we don't start weighing them against other things, we just decide, do we want it or not? The other point I want to make is about the App Store. And there's a couple of points that are actually worthwhile making about this. The first one is that the App Store has basically very few prices. And you can ask yourself, what would have happened if there were more different prices out there? It would have been incredibly difficult to make these decisions. But the moment they've settled on a few prices, this decision is becoming much easier. Now, when you buy things on the App Store, I don't know if you've realized, but Apple waits a little bit. They wait a little bit, and they try to send you a receipt with multiple things that you bought. Why? Because it actually reduces some of your pain of paying. It puts things together. So rather than sending you an email, hey, you bought something for 99 cents, and hey, you bought something for 99 cents, it sends you an email that says you've done all of those things together. By the way, this strategy also saves them some money on the fee with the credit card, but in addition, it reduces the feeling of the pain of paying, making it less of a micropayment. How does the iStore make things look even less like micropayments? Gift certificates or prepayment. Right? If you buy a $25 or $50 certificate for the iTunes store, all of a sudden you have an account that is associated with buying these things. You draw down on it, but you don't feel in the same way that you're doing micropayments. The final thing I want to say about the App Store, which relates to the psychology of free, is that I think it has been a tremendous mistake to include price of free as one of the options. I see people all the time buying the free apps when a better version of the app exists at 99 cents. And it's not as if those are people that don't have 99 cents. Those are the same people who then go for a latte and spend $4 on a cup of coffee. They could have spent one cup of coffee less a day and upgrade 4 of their apps. But the moment the price of free exists as a version of the app, spending 99 cents more is not just a direct increase. It's not saying, oh, this is what I'm willing to pay and what are the other benefits. No, the moment something has a free version, the free version is so much more appealing that it's taking a disproportional size of the market, and all of a sudden people are much more appealing to it. And the reason why I think this is a shame is I think it's killing the paid market for the apps. What would happen, you can ask, if free was not an option, if the lowest price was 5 cents or 10 cents or 25 cents? Under those conditions, the appeal of a small price would not have been that strong. An app store that has a free version and a version at 99 cents create a huge barrier to switch to the 99 cents. An app store that has something at 5 cents and 99 cents, now the barrier is not as high. It's only 94 more cents. It's not the same as moving for free to a paid. And if you think about the ecosystem of app developers, there's a question of how do we support these activities. People are developing all kinds of stuff, initially for free, out of an interest in this. But if this ecosystem is not going to support them, people are going to stop. Or the kind of app that will appear would be very specific and many people would not make them. I think if we really wanted to support this ecosystem, both on the Android side and on the Apple side, it's important not to create the zero price, because the gravitation to zero is too much and it could actually undermine the whole market. So to summarize, the psychology of money is a really interesting topic. We think we're experts with money, we use money all the time, but if you take a step back, you realize how interesting it is. And not only is it interesting, it's going to become more interesting. We're inventing electronic wallets, we're inventing new ways of payment, we're inventing ways for people to pay each other, to split checks differently, to pay merchants differently, for merchants to pay other people differently. We have circle lending, we have all kinds of things that are emerging. And of course, those will make it more interesting to study, but we also should ask ourselves, how do we want these payment methods to look like? If we're designing a new electronic wallet, how do we want it to look like? Do we want it to make people make better decisions or worse decisions? Do we want it to be better for the merchants or for the individuals? For long-term savings or for short-term fun? Do we want to eliminate the pain of paying or do we want to make it central? I think it's incredibly important. We are the designers of our money, and we have to understand how money works and think about how do we want to design the payment method so that it will actually make us the best off we can.